I'm Vincent, also known as DJ Vinny P, and I had the incredible opportunity to interview the legendary sports broadcaster Jim Nantz. He's covered everything from the Masters to the Super Bowl to NCAA basketball and so much more. Unfortunately, due to a technical error, the first few questions were cut off, but right now you're jumping in as I ask him about his journey and how he prepared and worked to reach the top of the sports broadcasting world. Hope you guys enjoy.
So when I was in college, I was volunteering and doing anything I could to get my hands on inside of the industry at a local level, just to try to get the experience and gain knowledge that would one day lead to the very path that I'm on all these years later. So I'm very grateful in my heart. I'm truly living a childhood dream right down to the specific network that I wanted to work for. So was there a moment when I realized probably the first day I was on the air, it was a bit nerve-wracking at the time. It was September 14th, 1985. And I was the new host of the college football studio show from our broadcast center in New York. And just minutes before they came to us, and I was about to make my national network debut at the age of 26. The weight of it all kind of suddenly came to reality, and I felt a sudden surge of anxiety.
Yeah, I bet.
Thankfully, I was able to calm myself down and get on the air and be introduced on the air by Brent Musburger and cleanly deliver all my lines and survive that first broadcast.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's all been a dream, truly. Since it's been every step of it has been everything I ever wanted to do since I was a little boy.
That's awesome. What skills do you think are most important for someone like me or my classmates that might want to work in sports media or radio or broadcasting?
Depends on what role you want to be in. Mine happens to be on the storytelling side of sports media. Some people want to get on the technical side of the business, run a camera, be a director or producer. But in the end, we're all storytellers at heart. You're telling a story through your camera lens. If you're a shooter, if you're a producer, you're stitching together the overall texture of the broadcast and tenor of the broadcast by leading the entire effort, visuals, audio, graphics, etc. It's all about storytelling. That's what I feel like if I had to boil down a job description to one thing, it would be storyteller. So what would be the advice? I would learn how to tell stories, as simple as that sounds. There's a lot of moving parts to it, but you think about moving orators that you have in your life, whether it be a priest, a pastor, a teacher, someone that you're really riveted by when they're in front of you and they're telling a story or a homily or something. And how do they do that? How do they make it interesting? Is there a flow to their ability to tell a story? You're listening to how they're able to weave together a beginning, a middle, and an end, and a payoff at the end.
Yeah.
I was a compulsive listener as a kid. I knew that this is what I wanted to do one day with my life. I wanted to make my mark as someone that could document sporting events from all corners of the world. And I listened to the broadcasters of my youth, how they cobbled together information and delivered it to me in a very succinct form. Television is not long form storytelling. It's quick bites. It's an art to being able to pull up the story and say it succinctly that it makes sense to the viewer, because the next play is right on top of you, or the next golf shot, or the next trip down the floor in basketball. You don't have 3 minutes to tell a story. You've got to say it quickly. So that's it. Reading teaches you how people do in obviously written form, tell you the story. And then listening to people that really get your attention and how they're able to make a subject matter riveting to you.
That's amazing. Thank you for that.
You bet.
It's kind of going off that. How do you just said you use a story to keep people engaged, and also, how do you keep people engaged in a game that's blowout or like not very exciting for the viewer or listener?
Very good question. Well, it's a coordinated effort, first off, with the production truck to make this also visually stimulating to the viewer, so that they have something to lay their eyes on that might bring a little pizzazz to a broadcast. But you are so prepared when you get into the booth for a game. You have read all week long everything that's been printed about these two teams. I'm taking the NFL here as an example.
Yeah.
You've met with players and coaches from each team, one set of players and coaches on Friday, another set on Saturday. You have reams and reams of stories and information that most of the time never sees the light of day. But when the game gets out of hand, you have a deep reservoir of things to go to that in a close, competitive, compelling game are not going to get on the air, because the game is it's living on the edge, and the next play could be the game breaker. But when it gets out of hand, which can be often, you learn how to dip into that reservoir I mentioned and pull out things that hopefully maintain your audience's attention.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Over the years, how have you adapted to new technology in broadcasting?
I have to adapt to it because it leads us in so many different facets of a broadcast. Take the NFL. I've been doing games since the 1980s. We didn't used to have that yellow first down line, believe it or not. You had to kind of eyeball that and look at the chains down on the field, try to guess a little bit how close they are to that imaginary first down line. And you learn how to bring it into your broadcast. But really, storytelling at its core is timeless. It will never change. The fact that you need to lean on that skill set that I mentioned before, beginning, middle, and an end, paying off a story, telling it in an economy of words, that's never going to change. As much as the technology around you does change, innovation is there. Take our golf coverage. I'm in Phoenix right now. We're going to have a broadcast here this weekend. And, the pro tracers that show the line of flight, the drone coverage. Actually, that technology has made, I think in our golf broadcasting, it has made my commentary, everybody's commentary, a little sharper.
Yeah,
the visuals are so stunning. And take Pebble Beach last week. We were at Pebble last week, and all the views of Pebble Beach golf links were just awesome to see. And it demanded, if you were going to try to blend in with those visuals with some commentary, it needed to match the level of artistry that was coming from those drones. It forced you to be a little bit more poetic in the way you describe things. Again, in brief sentences, brief thoughts. But I think it's made golf broadcasts overall so much better, significantly better. The drone coverage that's appeared in the last 3 or 4 years, and it's made the commentator on that sport better. It really has. It's upped everybody's game.
Yeah, that's amazing. I just have a few quick questions. I know you have to go soon. How does your energy and calling change from sport to sport? I know you talked about the storytelling.
Good
How does
question.
your specific energy? Yeah.
You match the energy that's in the arena. And it's not anything that's contrived, which sounds like it's contrived when I make a statement like the one I just did. You match the energy in the arena. You just naturally find a way to morph into that environment. For example, if I was talking to you right now and I was calling you from a Phoenix Suns basketball game and I could barely hear you, my energy level would be at a much higher level. I'd be fighting through that crowd noise and hoping you can hear me, and there would be an excitement in the air, and I'd be naturally doing that. But here it is, 7:50 in the morning, I'm in a hotel room in Arizona, and I'm speaking much more conversational because this is the environment I'm in.
Yes.
So I
Yeah.
get that question a lot. After all the years that I would do the Final Four on a Monday night championship, with a Monday night championship call, and the building where the game is taking place is at a fevered pitch, and you're trying to break through with your voice, with your energy, and then 3 days later, I'm covering the opening round of the Masters in Augusta with a whispered tone. And people would say, "Hey, that sounds like kind of tricked up because you weren't whispering on Monday night." Well, no, of course I'm not whispering. I'm inside a football stadium, calling a game, and it just kind of naturally happens that way. So I've never really given it much thought. I just kind of let it take me there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Thank you. I know you've been heavily involved in charity work. How has that impacted your life and your perspective?
Well, it's become the most important thing that I've done in my career is being involved in developing, creating, and opening an Alzheimer's Research Institute in Houston, named the Nantz National Alzheimer's Center. Opened it in 2011, and it's become my life's work, and it never leaves me. It's top of mind every day, and there's a lot of parts to it. There's a lot of obligation, which I don't look at as obligation because I'm trying to be a part of something that's going to create massive change in the study of Alzheimer's. And I really believe we're on our way. Here it is, year 14. And there have been some groundbreaking and prolific breakthroughs in the last few years. Many of these findings that have already changed the world in terms of some therapeutics that are on the market. Lecanemab and donanemab are two drugs that were trialed at the Nantz Center and have found their way into the global treatment world. And the Nantz Center is right front and center with that. So, yeah, it is highly rewarding. It's quiet work. You don't do it for attention. You do it because there's something in your heart that's telling you this is what you want to do. And in my case, I wanted to do it in an effort to try to defeat the opponent that defeated my dad, who lost his battle with Alzheimer's. And that became suddenly a crystal clear mission in my life, was to try to do something that would be game-changing, life-changing in the study of Alzheimer's. And I'm thrilled that I feel like we're on a really good path right now. This journey is taking off.
That's amazing.
And, it's an amazing part of my life that I have the platform and that God has given me the gift and the energy to focus on this. It means in a lot of ways I can't do everything for everybody in terms of what their cause might be or their event might be. I'm just so busy all the time in this Alzheimer's world. And hopefully people understand that this is like another full-time job. And I don't look at it as a job. I look at it as a passion project. And it's been just so fulfilling and rewarding. I can't even begin to quantify it.
That's amazing. If you have time for just one more question.
Sure. I'm just walking to the meeting, so we're good.
Okay, great.
Okay.
When people look back on your career, how do you hope they remember your voice and contributions to the sport? I know you just talked about your charity.
Great questions, Vincent, by the way. I got to get back to that first question I never answered. I hope they look back. I hope they would look back at it and say that it had integrity and that I rooted for people. The media landscape today can be extremely snarky and insensitive and filled with a lot of hot takes. Thankfully, I'm not in that world. I don't do those shows where I have to try to come up with something that draws attention to me or creates clicks. I call games and events, and most of the time, 99.999% of the time, It's highly positive, trying to shine a light on people and tell their story, because I know that every single one of these athletes and coaches have a burning desire inside of them that was born with a childhood dream to be great at something. And I don't want to dampen that moment for them. I want to celebrate it. I want to find the heartbeat to the story and try to tell it the best way I can.
Mm-hmm.
That's my goal always. So I would hope they would say it was a career that had integrity and shine a positive light on people. In a nutshell, that would be it.
It's amazing. Thank you.
What was that first question?
Yeah. So
one
first
question I've never been asked.
Yes, one question you've never been asked in an interview that you wish you had.
Still struggling with that. One question I've never been asked. What would that be? I don't really have.
It's okay.
You know, I probably don't have anything. I mean, I feel like I've been asked everything.
I know.
You would be amazed at how much media, this isn't media, obviously, but how many times I'm being interviewed as opposed to interviewing people.
Really?
Like radio shows, podcasts. It's 20 to 1.
Oh, that would make sense.
I've spent a great part of my life doing interviews, being on the being interviewed side of it. Yeah. Not doing interviews. It's a very public and exposed and curious life people want to know about. Yeah. And, yesterday I was flying out here to Phoenix and I had a connection. I stopped to talk to the LA Times. Yeah. And there's at least one a day, whether it's radio, newspapers, websites, podcasts. I try not to do podcasts anymore. Yeah. But I think most people would not be aware of the onslaught of questioning that I face and people in my business face on a daily basis. It's immense. Not a complaint. I don't complain about any of it. It's a childhood dream. It's not what people think it is. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's really interesting. But you got to do me a favor. You got to tell your sweet mom and your great dad, hello, I love this family. I miss this family of yours. Yes, we miss you too. And Jim Fish, what's up? Jim Nantz, what's up? You please give your family my best, my man. I will. Okay. Thank you so much for the interview. I wish you all the best. Stay in touch. Yes, Vincent. I will. Have a great day. Bye-bye. Bye.